Welcome. You're now listening to the Wealth Within podcast.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Wealth Within podcast. I'm your host, Lanzea, and every conversation we have here is designed to elevate your perspective and support your growth with no judgment. Today, we are just going to have a chat in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, and I really want to dedicate this episode to helping us shift our perspective on what mental health is and what mental health looks like. As I grow older, I have realized that mental health goes way beyond crisis management. I feel like sometimes in the media, mental health is portrayed, like, for example, when you see people go on trial that did something insane and then they end up getting diagnosed with a mental illness or something like that, and either the sentence is lesser or they get some type of special treatment through the judicial process. That's kind of what I have in my head of what represents mental health. As I grow older and as I grow more mature in my spirituality, as I walk on the path of creativity and entrepreneurship, I really realize that mental health is the foundation for everything, for us growing, for us going deeper in our purpose, for us finding our original childlike creativity, for us even learning how to trust ourselves again as adults. And I know my community is out here trying to build the biggest lives we ever could imagine. But I really would like us to give ourselves more grace when it comes to the emotional aspect of that. And just to put a reminder out there that we cannot build these big extravagant lives and these, the lives that we dreamed of running on survival mode. I just want to touch on some main points of how survival mode thinking and acting can get in a way of us expanding our perspective, our creativity, our vision, and just everything that goes along with growing as a person. One main point being anxiety and emotional hypervigilance. This is something that I realize I've probably dealt with my whole life. And it wasn't until this year where I decided I have to get to the bottom of why I'm so anxious all the time, why I'm on edge all the time, because as you guys know, I'm so for like healing, because I'm not trying to pass nothing down to my daughter. Like, I'm not trying to pass her down no trauma. So this year, just in these little 5 months, I have really been working on how I see things and why do I expect the worst for myself at the end of the day. That has been the bottom line, and that has, what I've learned is that that's been the root cause of my anxiety. I don't even expect the best for myself, which makes me feel anxious about every outcome, every idea, every positive thing that I might have on my vision board or have on my to-do list. Somewhere deep down in there, I was like, but what if this might not work for me? Yes, I see somebody that I know on Instagram doing something similar, or somebody on YouTube doing something similar. I've learned all the to-dos before I get started, but deep down, really just not expecting it to work. And that has caused me so much fear and has really put me in a box, kind of, because if I'm operating from fear, I'm already nervous about what I'm doing. So that then creates anxiety for me to be anxious about the outcome, because if I'm expecting it not to work, I'm thinking about all the possible ways that it's not going to work. And in turn, I realized that that was blocking me from even just having clear vision, even for being grateful. It was blocking me from having gratitude and expecting the best, which really can wear you down mentally, because if you're always on edge about your own life, just imagine going into the world. Just imagine going into the world trying to connect with people, or being being in situations that could possibly be opportunities for growth, but you're so anxious that you're not even recognizing it because maybe you think this situation could be harmful or that it's just simply too good to be true for you. Another main point has been nervous system exhaustion. I touched on regulating our nervous system probably the last one or two episodes. But what I have realized is that my nervous system has been exhausted every which way when it comes down to finances, when it comes down to emotional capacity, when it comes down to seeing myself in a positive light and just acting out of that light. It's very, very important for us to learn what our triggers are, what our limiting beliefs are, and really do the work to unravel them so we can then become safe in our own body, in our own minds. Our nervous system really tells a lot. I know in the last episode I kind of touched on trauma and just how it lives in our body. You won't know that you have some trauma about something from probably 8 years old until you're met with it as an adult, and it can show up in something, and it could show up in a way that doesn't have anything to do with the situation that happened when you were 8 years old. For example, I know we hear a lot about finances. Let's use this as an example. When it comes to finances and people looking at finances from a scarcity mindset, we always hear things like, "Oh, how was money? How did your family treat money growing up?" I know in the Black community, we all probably experience that conversation with our parent or parents where they tell us we don't have McDonald's money. Something as simple as that could have triggered or, created a space of lived trauma within you to make you think that, okay, we don't have enough for what I want. So when we get older and we have financial blockage, or we receive money and we don't know what to do with it, we don't know how to invest back into ourselves, because somewhere in there we never regulated that idea that we don't have enough for ourselves. So we're always acting as if what we have is not enough. And that is wearing down our nervous system and wearing down our mental health. Because when it comes to money and you as an adult, even this economy in California, period, we already living on edge. Everything is so high. And then you're sitting here trying to figure out how to maximize the income you do have and how to add more to your life without even realizing that internally you're not even there where you can hold the capacity to receive more and then multiply. Sometimes when this goes unchecked for so long, it doesn't matter. You can get $20,000 today and it can be gone by the end of the week because you're operating out of scarcity. That is a mental block that has to be checked, because if you want to grow and if you want to expand financially and if you want to expand with your vision to be able to see what you can do with what you have and be more creative in that area, you have to get to the bottom of the limiting belief that you have about finances and receiving. And then when you get that underway, then you can start looking at what you have, being grateful for what you have, opening and expanding your vision to be more creative and actually start acting from a place of possibility. And that in itself will open up your mind. It will open up your vision and your imagination and take off some of the mental load that you may be experiencing due to anxiety and unregulated nervous system. When we are not constantly checking in on our mental health, it can oftentimes lead to burnout and even disconnecting from ourselves, which causes mental overwhelm and really impacts our confidence and clarity when it comes to how we're showing up in the world. When survival mode becomes our baseline, growth starts to feel emotionally unsafe. And I just want the Becoming Collective to know that it's okay to have rest. It's okay to put things off for another day. It's okay to not understand and want to get to the bottom of it when it comes to our emotional capacity and our mental health, because our mental health supports our creativity, our purpose, healthy relationships. It supports us being consistent and having vision and actually executing on the vision that we have. And we have to take into consideration that this goes across all boards of life. I don't care if it comes down to your work or it comes down to your relationship. You have to prioritize what you feel, and you have to learn how to articulate it for yourself and for the other people involved. Because I think sometimes, especially as women, we get we get labeled as crazy. We get labeled as not being able to be satisfied, like, oh, we just want too much. We get labeled as problematic when we just recognize what's not sitting well for us. But I just need us to know that when we learn to articulate what we feel and we're not acting and responding from frustration or irritation or even anger all the time, or even being emotionally numb, when we articulate our feelings, we release it. We release it. We are not responsible for what other people can comprehend, as long as we just get it up off of us. There's absolutely no way that we can show up as our best selves, as mothers, as wives, girlfriends, as co-workers, as teachers, as sisters, as friends, as daughters. There's no way we can show up as our best self when we are locking ourselves in our own emotional prison to not make other people uncomfortable. There's no way that we can thrive in who we actually are. There's no way that we can connect with the real assignment for our life when we're piling on stuff that doesn't even belong here. I just want us to make it a priority going into this next 6 months, this last 6 months of 2026, to create internal stability when needed to sustain the life that we're trying to build, because it's an absolute non-negotiable. So here are some ways that we can maintain healthy mental wellness while we're on this journey of becoming. For one, we talked about regulating our nervous system. Really get to the bottom of those limiting beliefs that only you know that you have. It's your work to do. Rest without feeling guilty about it. It's okay. We don't have to do everything in one day. How do they say it? Rome wasn't built in a day, okay? And we're building lives bigger than Italy. And to get to the bottom of this stuff, we have to be honest about our emotions with ourselves. We have to start taking responsibility for how we actually feel and not just putting a label on it. Really start to talk to yourself and even write it down if you have to. Figure out what you actually feel when you feel, that drop in your stomach, or you feel your temperature rising in certain situations. Really get to the bottom of what that is and what that means to you. Start setting boundaries. I had this experience just the last couple of days. I was so mad for about 2 days, and I prayed about it, and I got to the point where it's like, you can't carry this for your own sake. You see how thrown off you are? Like, you're beyond irritated. There's no way that you can function in the things that you need to do. So instead of deciding to carry that anger, I was just like, you know what? Here's a boundary that I have to set. You take it or leave it. But this is what I have to do for me to be productive in the life that I'm trying to build. So boundaries are necessary, and please take time away from things that are overstimulating. I know we hear about social media breaks and stuff like that, but it could be anything. You can be triggered by anything, and if you're overstimulated by it and you recognize that, please take a break. Don't feel like you just have to power through it, because you don't, and that's weighing down on your mental health. find community and support if you can. And if you can't, the Becoming Collective is always open to you. We are here to support with no judgment. Start adding in healthy routines. A morning routine, a night routine is a great way to start. Sometimes we don't have control over what the day will bring, but if we start the day with gratitude and we end the day with like a proper wind down, that can really set us back at like the baseline for what's mentally healthy for us. One thing that I love also is journaling. I love to journal because I can get it out better, which if I can see what I'm thinking, then it helps me understand what I'm thinking and I can articulate it better when I talk. Find things that bring you joy and start to indulge in the joy. If that means getting up 30 minutes earlier to just have some tea and some alone time, do that. I also realize, don't feel bad when the thing that brings you joy is just you. Indulge in yourself. You don't need somebody to agree with what happiness looks like for you, or you don't need to bring anybody along for the process for that matter. I really want us to understand that healing is necessary for our, increasing our mental capacity and increasing our mental health. Healing is not separate from our success. You don't get successful and then finally, when you made it to that point in life that you feel like you need to, you start to heal. Healing is what allows us to be successful and to feel sustainable in the success, to keep it going. So in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, please don't look outside of yourself as if it's something that you haven't experienced. It's something that we are actually living in every single day. It may not look like the most extreme situation on the scale, but every day mental health maintenance is necessary in our lives. This is a priority and it is in fact a prerequisite for the lives that we are trying to build, our softest life and our most dreamiest version of that. Becoming your fullest self requires caring for your mind. Being aware of your mental health status is a part of the foundation that allows you to fully become. If this conversation has gave you clarity or shifted your perspective in any way, share it with someone who needs it. And make sure you're following the Wealth Within podcast for more. And please remember to be gentle with yourself while you're on this journey, because we are always becoming.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Wealth Within podcast. Please be sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode.